Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to our channel, where we bring to you the latest topics in legal writing. Tonight, we're back with another session of Chikahan, with none other than yours truly,
Sister!
Hello!
Hi! Mga mare, ano ang chismis? What are we going to talk about tonight? Exciting!
Maris, this is what's latest. First, we'll talk about prepositions.
Yes, Mare, and ito pa. We'll also go through numbers. My favorite topic.
You're both correct, Maris, but may isa pa. Of course, we won't miss out on talking about punctuation.
Mares,
Oh, one more,
we
one
apparently
more.
have a lot to talk about, so why don't we go ahead and start?
All right, let's start. Maris, did you know that Tabucanon and Mockon in their legal writing book said that a preposition is like the glue that holds the blocks of a structure together?
Why is that so, Mare? I hope it's stronger than the glue that binds relationships these days. You know, it's raining breakups 2021. Sean and Camila. So sad.
They said it's like a glue because it links keywords and indicates the relationship of its object in terms of time, space, or meaning to the rest of the sentence.
You're right, Mare. Hear me out. I have a friend who threw a birthday party, then she was found her home drunk birthday.
Huh? Marisa, are you drunk? That does not make sense at all.
I'm not Maris. I swear. But add prepositions and the sentence becomes clearer. She was found in her home drunk after her birthday.
Oh, so that's what you were trying to say.
But Maris, personally, I'm having a hard time with prepositions.
Oh, that's normal, Maris, because there are so many prepositions and a number of these are polysemous, which means that they are capable of having several possible meanings. Just take the preposition of as an example. When we say, it is thoughtful of you, the word of is being used as on the part of, while in saying slow of understanding, of is being used as in respect to, such that it links slow and understanding to answer the question, slow in respect to what?
Oh, there are a lot of ways we use of without even realizing it. Sana all useful.
Sana all.
Besides multiple meanings, there is also the matter of prepositional phrases. Before, it has been preferred not to put prepositions at the end of the sentence because it has been deemed informal to end a sentence with a preposition. Just look at the judge to whom this case has been submitted versus the judge this case has been submitted to.
Mare, these days, that is not strictly followed. Although not putting the preposition at the end is still preferable in most situations, there are many situations that ending a sentence with the preposition is elegant and appropriate, such as in Sir Francis Bacon's essay on revenge. Dapat with feelings. He said, "Revenge is a kind of wild justice, which the more a man's nature runs to, the more ought law to weed it out." Guys, with feelings.
There are so many things to consider in using the right prepositions. How can we improve our usage of these prepositions?
First, Mari, we just familiarize ourselves with the correct usage of prepositional phrases. For example, instead of saying secret to success, we say the secret of success.
And in talking about the hazardous effects on health, we use on instead of to. like hazardous effects to health.
Yes, and when we speak about our advocacies, we say campaign for environmental protection instead of campaign about environmental protection.
When talking about K-pop, I say I'm so obsessed with BTS and not obsessed for BTS.
And in letting a friend know that I care for them, it's better for me to say, I'm worried about your mental health, instead of, I'm worried with your mental health.
Besides distinguishing the correct over the poor usage, we also familiarize ourselves with the prepositions which connote different meanings when used over the other, such as between and among, where between is used when only two persons or things are considered, such as in saying between Juan and Carlo, while among is used when more than two are considered, such as among us, married sisters. For beside and besides, beside means at the side of, such as in saying sitting beside you, while besides mean in addition to or except for, thus we write no one besides you and me.
And using in and into, in refers to position, while into refers to movement from outside to within. So when we refer to something that is inside the room, we say the object is in the room. When we say that the accused barged from outside to inside the room, we can say the accused barged into the room.
Yes, I'm sure there are still a lot that we can give as examples, but since we're all aspiring lawyers, why don't we focus on legal terms and prepositions?
Bright idea, Mari. And since that's your bright idea, why don't you go and start?
Sure, Marisa. Since we just covered accessories in CRIM 1, examples are accessory after and accessory to. One who conceals a crime is an accessory after the fact, although acquitted by technicality. Many consider her as an accessory to the crime. Another is when someone is accused of something. The driver was accused of reckless imprudence. And when someone is acquitted, let's say the driver in the previous example, the driver is acquitted of the crime and that he is acquitted by the RTC judge.
It's my turn, Mare. You might end up enumerating everything. Another example is the restraining order bars him from attending his own daughter's wedding. And in identifying the accusation, writers may use the charge against, such as in the charge against them was jaywalking. The teachers are in charge of order and discipline in class, where the preposition of you is used to link who is responsible for the order and discipline in class. The judge's charge to the counsel is to observe punctuality, where the preposition to is used to link who is being charged, which is to the counsel, and what the instruction of the judge is. And since we're now studying penalties, a relevant example is justice calls for a penalty that's commensurate with the gravity of the offense. How about you, Maurice? Do you have other examples?
Of course, Mare. The word determined can be followed by the prepositions by, to, and on. The true circumstances can be determined by, allowing us access to the records, while for, to, they are determined to resolve the matter. And lastly, this is to determine on what motive she had done it. In talking about why more evidence is needed, the preposition for is used in, we need more evidence for the judge to consider, while of is used in saying their attitude provides evidence of bigotry. I believe this is what you imply by your remarks. Imply can also be followed by the preposition in. This is what I imply in my statements. For our last examples, I'm sure Marites has something to add.
Oh, you know me so well, Mare. The prepositions about, after, for, and into can be used with the word inquire, depending on the circumstances. To illustrate, they needed to inquire about his whereabouts. This seeks to find out his whereabouts. Inevitably, she inquired after the status of the case, which means that she asked. The investigators began inquiring for Mr. Vasquez. Inquiring for means looking. And then they eventually inquired into his personal business. Inquiring into means investigating. Lastly, vest can be followed by the prepositions in or with. The power to choose is supposedly vested in the people. The people are vested with the power to choose. There are still many examples and we cannot go over and enumerate these, but I hope that we and our viewers, hello viewers, say hello to our viewers,
Hello.
have learned the importance of prepositions in relating the words in our sentences and have picked up one or two lessons in the current usage of prepositions.
Nakakalito talaga, Mare, ang prepositions. Ayoko na, char. Pero para mas masaya, gusto niyo bang mas malito pa? Favorite topic ko na.
Ano ba yan, Mare? May isa pa?
Okay lang yan, sis. Dapat makover natin lahat para mataas grades natin. Beka naman, attorney.
Oo, wala. Simulan na nga natin para matapos na.
Ito na tayo. Pag-usapan na natin ang numbers. Basta walang computations, ha?
Don't worry, wala naman itong computations. Ilaan na natin yun sa islaw.
English only, please.
Okay po, I'll try. Okay, let's start. You ready, Mares?
Yes.
Are you
Yes.
ready? Don't worry, this is
Yes.
just brief. Basically, my chika is more on the rules regarding the use of numbers in legal writing. Numbers can be through figures or words depending on the writer. In short, walang pakialamanan dito. So, wag yung pakialaman kung ano yung trip ng writer. Pero joke lang po yun. Kidding aside, though the decision is left with the writer, there are practices that guide lawyers in legal writing.
Right. I followed the academic writing convention where you have to write the number up to 100.
As for me, I apply the modern trend. Siyempre, dun tayo sa latest. Modern dapat. The numbers are mostly in figures, except for very small numbers, such as 1 to 10, which are spelled out in words.
In addition, I heard that you can also do this. When numbers begin a sentence, they're usually spelled out, except when they are dates.
Yes, those are just some of the examples. Thank you, Mares. Still, there are a lot of other rules pa. Numbers can be classified as small or long numbers. Like for small numbers, if you will use 1 or 2 word numbers, then you can have them written out. Hyphenated numbers between 21 to 99 are considered as one-word numbers. Example, the law firm has 25 associates. Or, the Mary sisters are composed of 4 women.
On the other hand, long numbers are better written in figures. Example is 1,520,500, which is very lengthy if you still spell it out.
Yeah, it would also be more convenient and easier to understand if long numbers will not be written out.
Also, if you want to pluralize numbers, just add apostrophe S or S to the number like 90s.
Though modern writers don't use the apostrophe S nowadays, they just add S, Mare. For example, in the 1940s.
Yes. By the way, Maris, we've been chikayin kanina pa. Let's have some sort of an icebreaker. Actually, it would be a series of icebreakers.
Oh, sige, go ako
Yay!
dyan.
Yeah. I will be showing a video somewhere in the screen. Then you are going to answer po. Okay?
Okay, noted.
Okay, noted. Huwag kayong ano dito, Marites and Marie. Competitive ako, ha?
Okay, kalma lang guys. Viewers, akala nyo sila lang? You can join as well. So, for the first part, here goes. I'll be showing it. So,
Yes.
welcome to Chika Minute. And for round 1, explain ko po muna yung rules pala. So, number 1, prepare a pen and a paper. Tapos, read the questions. Put down your answers in the paper. Okay?
Okay, Mare.
Round 1. The number and a number. Question number 1. Choose the correct word in each sentence. Okay? You have 30 seconds po to answer. And may timer yan. Good luck, guys!
So we're going to write also talaga? Gonna get a
Opo.
paper? Ay, di ko alam.
Yay! Time's up! Malapit na! Okay, so let us now check po the answers. Paring Maris, can you please read po the correct answers?
Halat po, hay na ako. Alat mo, talaga na akong papel.
Yan po.
Ano ba yung gigituin ko dyan? May maasya talaga sa papel. Akala ko pati ito is...
Ay, basahin mo na lang po yung correct answers na nasa screen.
The number of people lined up for tickets was 400. Yun ang answer.
Opo, yung was po yung answer.
Was. Okay, was. So, mag-give akong emphasis sa was. Ano ba?
Opo.
Okay, again. The number of people lined up for tickets was 400. Number 2, a number of suggestions were made. Number 3, there are a number of important announcements in the bulletin. And number 4, here is the number of books you requested. Am I correct?
Yes. Thank you, Maring Maris. So, nakuha niyo ba lahat yung tamang sagot? What about you,
Okay.
viewers? Tama ba yung mga sagot nyo? Let us know in the comments down below. Though wala po kaming comment section. So, the previous activity was about the phrases, the number, and a number.
From the icebreaker, it appears that the number goes with a singular verb, while a number goes with a plural helping verb.
Yes, and here are some other examples. The number of cases filed this month was dwindled, and a number of lawyers are attending the ball. For the next round, we will talk about collectives.
Oh, I know that. Collectives are words used to represent group of people, animals, or things. Examples are committee, team, crowd, flock, band, panel, troop, class, school.
Thank you, Maring Marisa. The rules for collectives are, when a collective noun refers to a single entity, it takes a singular verb. When a collective noun is referring to a group of individuals, it takes a plural verb.
In addition, Mares, where a unit of measurement is used collectively, it is singular. Where the unit of measurement refers to the individuals forming part of the group, it is plural.
Examples. 2/3 of the auditorium is occupied. 2/3 of the students are volunteering.
So, let's have another quick exercise. Again, grab your pen and paper. Ready?
Oh, another one?
Yes! Madami po yan. I enjoyed preparing them. Okay po. Eyes on the screen. 3, 2, 1.
Si Marites na po. Mare, anong latest?
Ayan.
Yun na. Mayo pa.
Ayaw pa.
Papapata.
Pang-accent. Ebe ko nag-accent.
Ayan. Please try to answer po ulit.
Ay, sasabihin ko na yan.
Ay,
May
later pa po.
May timer.
Magsasagot muna. Okay. 5 questions po yan. Mabilis ba?
Iwan ko. Ay, pero nakamute man kita sa part na yan. Ay, di makakita ka.
I-ano ko na lang. Last 2 questions.
May prize ang makaka-answer. Caster.
Baka anapan kita ni Prose.
With prize.
Giveaway.
Plus points. Last question. And yung answer po pala. Dami po ba? So, ilan po yung scores nyo? Perfect po ba ulit lahat?
Yes.
Me too. That's perfect.
Yay!
So how do we treat the collective noun majority?
The collective noun majority is often singular. However, it may be regarded plural if referring to individual members. Example, majority of voters vote in the morning.
Oh, I see.
Yes, and aside from the collectives, we also have adjectival compounds.
Yes. When units of measure modify nouns or pronouns, they are called adjectival compounds.
And they are hyphenated.
Yes po. It is formed when two or more adjectives are joined together to modify the same noun. Here are some examples. He owns a four-door apartment. And your first-class treatment will be long remembered. Sorry, again, baka nauumay na po kayo. Another compound. Tadadun. Describe the nouns using compound adjectives. Try nyo lang po sagutan. Go, guys! Ay, mabilisan pala. Sorry. Kasi,
Okay lang yan. Advance mo kayo mag-isip.
yes. Yes.
Describe the nouns using compound adjectives. Takes 10 minutes. So the measurement of your walk, the time you finish the walk in 10 minutes. Tama. A village of 12 stories, 12 buildings, 12 floors. A boy of 5 years age. A boy is 5 years.
Okay po, time's up. Let's check po.
Okay, let's move on to the next.
How wide did you get a wrong answer?
Hindi naman, kasi may isa pa tayong top.
So, yan. Can you read
Okay.
po, Maring Maritas, the correct answers?
For a walk that takes 10 minutes, a 10-minute walk. A building that has 12 stories, a 12-story building. A boy who is 5 years old, a 5-year-old boy. A report that is 30 pages long, a 30-page report. Students and high-spirited students. Children who behave well, well-behaved children.
Thank you. So, we're down to the last few items naman na. Don't worry po. The next topic are ordinal numbers, which indicate degree or position in a series. They may function as nouns, like she placed third in the bar examinations, or as an adjective. She will be the first woman to be introduced to his parents. Sana all.
Sana all in both of the examples.
Done na po. So, let's check po the correct answers. Maring Marisa, can you please tell po or read the correct answers?
Po, number 1. Hindi ko kasi nababasa.
Ay,
Ako din.
Ayun na. Number 1. Paul has bought a second car for his son who is a young driver. Bako yan?
Opo, yun na po.
Ay, sorry. Ako nawara.
Again,
Sorry
again.
po.
Again.
Tapos nilo, barasahon hanggang 5.
Opo, gabas po.
Okay. Number 1. Paul has bought a second car for his son who is a young driver. Number 2. First of all, I would love to say that you are welcome in our city. Number 3. Sight, smell, touch, taste. What is the fifth sense I have forgotten? It's hearing. Number 4.
Number 4, witnessing a road accident, I gave the first aid. Number 5, September is the 9th month of the year.
Yay! Thank you, Mares. Natapos natin yung
Maris.
round.
Thank you.
Daming rounds of exercises.
Mga ganong effect. Baka bebe ako ang nakaraot dyan.
Hope you had fun. Thank you po.
Yay! Thank you. Once again, this is Marites.
This is Marietta.
And I'm Marisa.
And I am Maris.
And we are the Mari
Sisters. Thank you, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe.
Bye-bye.
Hit the like button. Bye-bye.
Paano? Ano ka niya?
Sabihin mo po mag-subscribe, Sinda, sa baba. Don't forget to subscribe. I thank you for
Thank you
for watching.
Kita ate Nat, sumapagayon na lang kita. Kaya na.
Ano sabihin ko?
Sabihin mo lang po, thank you for watching.
Good evening, attorney, and good evening, blackmates. Today, I will be discussing different punctuations used in legal writing for us to learn how it is being used correctly and sparingly. According to Edgar Allan Poe, the writer who neglects punctuation or mispunctuates is liable to be misunderstood. Punctuations are visual aids to help the reader better understand a written material. They guide the reader to the writer's intent and meaning. In oral communication, gestures, word stress, and intonation serve as punctuations to help the listener better understand what the speaker is saying. As in gestures, one must not punctuate beyond what is necessary. Good punctuation does not call attention to itself. The first punctuation mark, and considered the most common punctuation mark, is the period. It is one of the three terminal punctuation marks, together with the question and exclamation mark. A period is used after a statement, command, or a request. An example of this is, "You are forbidden to speak in public." A period, not question mark, ends an indirect question. Example, the judge asked if I have other witnesses. A period is also used after initials and most abbreviations. In the abbreviations of well-known organizations, periods are not required. If an abbreviation with a period comes at the end of the sentence, only one period is used. If a request or command is courteously phrased as a question, a period and not a question mark must be used. This rule is particularly true if no reply is expected. The next punctuation mark is the exclamation point. These marks are almost never used in formal legal writing, as these marks suggest intense emotions. Formal legal writer is cautioned against using them. Otherwise, the material will appear highly subjective without being persuasive. According to F. Scott Fitzgerald, cut out all these exclamation points. An exclamation point is like laughing at your own joke. Another punctuation is the question marks. These are among the three terminal punctuation marks that is generally used to end a sentence. There are instances, however, when they appear in the middle of a statement, such as to express uncertainty. There are rules in using question marks. First, direct questions end with a question mark. An example of this is there a justice here? And another one is indirect questions end with periods, not question marks. Example, the defendant asks if we pay the mediation fees. Another rule in the question mark, if the sentences in declaratory form but which have interrogatory meaning end with a question mark. The reason for this is it is the sense, not the form, that counts. An example of this is, you went to the restaurant yesterday? Another one, interrogatory tags after a declaratory sentence end with question marks. Example, you are upset, aren't you? Multiple interrogatory endings in a single sentence are each followed by a question mark. The beginning letter following a multiple ending is not capitalized. Example, whose duty is that lower court records and transmitted to the Court of Appeals on time? The lower court judge, his court staff, or the appellant? A question mark also is used after a questioning word or a phrase within a sentence. An example of this is the one that you can see on the screen. Question marks are used to indicate uncertainty about a word or fact that precedes it. Example, his birthday is on March 17, 1963. The next punctuation is comma. Generally, there are two uses of the comma. Number one, the single comma is used to separate, while the double commas are used to set off clauses that interrupt the normal order of the statement. This is an oversimplification. For the most, the comma is the most troublesome punctuation mark. Its overuse or underuse has caused more mischief in law than the other punctuation marks combined. Proper use of the comma is thus important to help the reader get through the material the way it was intended and avoid misreading the sentences. According to Elwin Brooks White, a U.S. author and editor, commas in the New Yorker fall with the precision of knives in a circus act outlining the victim. There are rules in using comma. Like for single comma, it is used in independent clauses. When independent clauses are joined by a coordinating conjunction like and, or, for, nor, yet, so, and but, the comma is placed before the conjunction. These conjoined clauses form a compound sentence. The comma is generally used in longer sentences, but in short compound sentences, the comma is dispensed with. For the long compound sentences, it needs a comma. For example, the plaintiff wanted to implead Mrs. Janice Siroto as defendant, and he wanted the case heard before the city fiesta. So there is a comma after the word defendant. But in short compound sentences, it does not need a comma. For example, the defendant shouted and he banged the table. A compound sentence must be distinguished from a simple sentence with a compound predicate. So, the example of this is, the law students had elected their president and they will party at Hotel San Martino tonight. This consists of two independent sentences, so there is a need for a comma. So after the word president, we'll put comma. And for one subject with two or more verbs or predicates, this does not need a comma. For example, the law students had elected their president and will party in Hotel San Martino tonight. There is no comma after the word president. Another way to join independent clauses is with a semicolon. This way, one need not use the conjunction. Example, the mediator talked with the plaintiff in the morning. In the afternoon, he spoke with the defendant. A single comma is used after an introductory element or phrase. This may be a word. An example of this is however, fortunately, first, soon, obviously. And this may be also a phrase. Example, being blood relatives, in fact, very soon, or this may be also a dependent clause. Example, at the time of the incident, with the preparation all geared up for a warm welcome, speaking to the defendant. Here are examples of comma being used in the introductory participial phrase. An example is, riding on the mountain bike, I realized the beauty of the city's barangays. And for the introductory prepositional phrase, an example of this is, on the advice of my counsel, I asked if we could have this thing talked about. Example of introductory infinitive phrase used in comma is to give his children college education, the defendant worked on double shift. And for the introductory adverb clause, the example is, although ailing, the defendant managed to answer the questions correctly. In this example, to give his children college education is the defendant's lifelong dream. No comma is needed since the infinitive is the subject of the sentence. While if in introductory phrase is very short, not more than 3 words, writer is given discretion whether to use the comma or not. Example, very soon the defendant will rest his case, or very soon the defendant will rest his case. In the second example, after the word soon, there is a comma. An example of introductory words are yes, no, however, nevertheless, well, indeed, in fact, I believe, in my opinion, of course, on the contrary, on the other hand, truth to tell. A comma also is used when transitional words such as moreover, therefore, thus, furthermore, appear in the beginning or in the mid-sentence. For example, therefore, we have decided to withdraw. Or, my advice, thus, is to intervene. Interrogatory tags after a declaratory statement are separated by a comma. This is particularly true when the subject of both the statement and the question is the same person or thing. Example, the judge is the Rotary president of the district, is he not? For interrogatory tags, when the subject of the first statement and the questions are different, 2 sentences are expressed separately. Example, I am planning to attend the IBP National Convention this year. Are you not? Coordinate adjectives. are two or more adjectives that equally modify a noun. These adjectives must be separated by commas. Example: the defendant chose to wear his most colorful, traditional costume in court. Another use of comma is to avoid ambiguity. Use a comma to separate words or figures to avoid being misunderstood. Example: in 1991, 6,000 people perished in that Ormoc flood. Another punctuation is double commas. It's a set of words or clauses that interrupt the normal order of the sentence. Unless such word or clause comes at the beginning or end of the sentence, a second comma must be used. An example of second comma is, "Here are your documents, Mr. Cruz." And an example of double commas, "Here are your documents, Mr. Cruz, and be sure to read them all tonight." Double commas are used to set off parenthetic expressions. These are words or phrases that give additional meaning but are only incidental to the main thought of the sentence. If parenthetic expressions appear in the middle of the sentence, double commas are used. Example: judges, just like any human, may be tempted to overlook facts out of pity. Here are some examples of parenthetic expressions. However, I think, I believe, I repeat, at any rate, I am sure, after all, on the other hand, perhaps. Also, in legal citation, within a sentence are parenthetical that must be to set off by commas. Example: in Liu versus Manipon, 381-788, registration is not equivalent to title. It merely confirms but does not confer ownership. Double commas are also used to set off contrasting expressions. These are parenthetic expressions introduced by not, but, although not, though not, usually, and the like. Double commas are used if the contrasting expressions appears in the middle of the sentence. Otherwise, only one comma is used, like when these expressions appear in the beginning or end. Example: the plaintiff, but not his wife, is predisposed to settle. Double comma are used also to set off appositives. An apposition or appositive is a word or phrase placed beside another to add to or explain the first. Example: Jose, Mario's older brother, is here. Sometimes appositives are preceded by such as, or, especially, particularly, and others. An example of this is Oryza sativa, more commonly known as rice, is the province's chief product. Appositive adjectives are likewise set off. Example: the bus, old and dilapidated, still transports passengers. Single word appositives are not set off with commas. Example: Brother Nate was here. Double comma is also used to set off non-restrictive elements. This is a phrase which modifies part of the sentence, but which is not essential to the overall meaning of the sentence. Non-restrictive elements are set off with commas, while restrictive or essential phrases do not need commas. Example: the class, which meets at the third floor, has invited Prof. Bettina. The venue of the class is incidental to the overall sense of the sentence. it is assumed that the writer has previously identified which class he is referring to. The clause is a non-restrictive or non-essential element. So non-restrictive phrases usually start with which, who, although, and though. And another example is, the class meet at the third floor has invited Prof. Bettina is a restrictive clause which do not need comma. Here, the clause that meets at the third floor is essential to identify which class among the many classes has invited Prof. Bettina. So restrictive or essential phrases usually start with that, when, because, before, while, if. Double comma to set off interrupting words or phrases. If terms of direct address like sir, madam, my dear cousin interrupt a sentence, they must be set off with commas. Example, the proposal, Your Honor, aims to give housing to the landless. Double comma to set off quotation. Commas are used to set off quotations unless the quotation is only one word. Note that the comma precedes the quotation mark. Example, the laws, said Cicero, place the safety of all before the safety of individuals. Another punctuation is semicolon. This is not a colon at all. It has the force of a strong comma or a weak period, separating parts of the sentences or joining sentences without need of a conjunction. According to Lewis Thomas, an educator and a U.S. physician, in his notes on punctuation, he said that sometimes you get a glimpse of a semicolon coming a few lines farther on, and it's like climbing a steep path through weeds and seeing a wooden bench just at a bend in the road ahead, a place where you can expect to sit for a moment, catching your breath. As a strong comma, a semicolon separates portion of a sentence of equal rank if the other parts are divided by commas. Example, we have branches in Lipa City, Batangas, Los Baños, Laguna, and Dasmariñas, Cavite. In weak period, a semicolon joins two independent clauses without a conjunction. A period may be used instead of the semicolon. Example, visitors visit, guests are invited, or visitors visit, guests are invited. In the first example, after the word visit, there is a semicolon. If the independent clauses are joined by transitional expressions such as indeed, that is, for instance, thus, in fact, for example, therefore, however, furthermore, as a result, at last, at least. On the contrary, a semicolon may be placed before the transitional word or phrase and put a comma after it. Example, the Court of Appeals granted appellant's motion for extension of time to file his brief. As a result, he had more time to research on the precedents. Colon is the punctuation mark of anticipation. It means something will follow. The colon is used to introduce block quotations, laws, and rules, as well as set off the speaker's name in transcripts of court's proceedings. Example, in laws. Section 6, Rule 1 of the 1997 Rules on Civil Procedure mandates, these rules shall be liberally construed in order to promote their objective of securing a just, speedy, and disposition of every action and proceedings. The colon used to introduce a formal matter. Example, the accused stood, his head bent, and said, "Guilty." The colon is used to introduce a transcript of court proceedings. Example, Attorney Cruz, "Do you know the defendant's elder brother?" A colon is used to introduce a series, summary, and elaboration. The clause introducing them must be a complete sentence in itself. An example of series is, the Molina case identified 3 elements to establish psychological incapacity, juridical antecedents, gravity, and incurability. Example of summary, she and I could have made a perfect couple save for the absence of one thing, marriage. In elaboration, my son's final grades jumped many points in his major subjects, from 85 to 90 in Filipino, 86 to 92 in English, and 84 to 90 in math. Misuse of the colon. The colon should not be used to separate the verb from the object. Example, our witnesses are Eric, Ronald, and Alfredo. Or the preposition from its object. Example, we are going to look for the documents in the court, the notary's public office, and the Bureau of Archives. The next punctuation is hyphen. When in doubt whether to hyphenate a compound term, which is a word coined from 2 or more words, the rule is to look up the term in the dictionary. It is sometimes difficult to form rules for hyphenated terms. You can see in the screen the words that are not hyphenated and are written in 2 words. And also, compound words beginning with land are written as 1 word. And also, a compound words with I are generally written as 1 word. Some of the examples are written on the screen. But there are words that are hyphenated. Example, land grant or land poor. In the other example, eye opener is hyphenated. Cross-examination, which is questioning an opposing or hostile witness, is hyphenated, while direct examination, which is the initial questioning of a witness by the party or his lawyer who called the witness, is not. For compound modifiers of phrasal adjectives, use the hyphen only when the modifier precedes the noun being modified. Example of the hyphenated is my eager to please friend. And the example of not hyphenated is my friend is eager to please. The hyphen is not used if the first term of a phrasal adjective is an adverb or ends in ly, unless the phrase consists of more than 2 words. Example, he went to a highly ranked school is hyphenated, but he went to a not so highly ranked school is not hyphenated. Foreign legal phrases are not hyphenated. Example, my associate took in the case pro bono public. It was a quid pro quo deal. The following words or prefixes that you see on the screen are usually hyphenated. And these prefixes are usually not hyphenated. There are exceptions in the use of hyphen to avoid ambiguity or if the second element is capitalized. For example of the word to hyphenate to avoid ambiguity is recount, recover, or recreate. The meaning of recount is second count of votes or a repetition of a count. While in the word not hyphenated, recount is to narrate an event. In the word recover that is being hyphenated, the meaning is to cover again. In the word not hyphenated, recover is to regain after losing. In the word recreate, to hyphenate it, the meaning is to create again. If the word is not hyphenated, the word recreate is to refresh by means of entertainment. Another exception, hyphenate to avoid doubling of letters or having two successive vowels. Example, anti-intellectual, anti-imperialist, anti-erosion, anti-aggression, anti-union, anti-oxidizer. And when the second element is capitalized, proper noun or noun phrase retain the hyphen. Example, anti-free trade, pre-Hispanic, anti-Aristotelian, anti-Sandinistas. Two words and spelled out numbers from 21 to 99 are hyphenated, even though they are part of a large number. Example, 21, 642. Spelled out fraction is hyphenated. Example, 1/3, 1/32. The suspensive hyphen is used when two or more hyphenated words share a common element. Example, write a 300 to 500 word essay on justice. If the modifier precedes the noun, use the hyphen. Otherwise, the compound words appear after the noun, the hyphen is not used. An example of hyphenated sentence, the long anticipated decision was received. In not hyphenated, the decision received was long anticipated. While in a well-known lawyer appeared in court is hyphenated, while the lawyer who appeared in court was well-known is not hyphenated. For line breaks, example, breaking the word at the end of the line, use the hyphen. Example, it is always good for the couples to fight for their marriage and not resort to easy separation. Do not divide a word in a page break or break if each part would have only less than 3 letters. Also avoid the hyphenating at the end of more than 2 consecutive lines. Apostrophe. The apostrophe punctuates the word rather than the sentence. In this sense, it is much like the hyphen. The apostrophe has 2 main uses, which are to indicate a possessive case and the omission of a letter or figure. It is also used to form the plural of letters, numbers, abbreviations, or words, used as such without reference to the meaning. In forming the possessive case, add apostrophe s to singular nouns, even if the base word ends in s or ss. The same rule is applied in proper nouns, but there are exceptions to this. For classical or biblical names ending in s, add an apostrophe only. And for certain virtues, take on apostrophe only to form the possessive. Plural nouns that end in s or z, add apostrophe only, otherwise add apostrophe s. For singular names written in plural form, add the apostrophe only. Example, Philippine Airlines, Manila Times, Court of Appeals, Court of Industrial Relations. The apostrophe is not used for pronoun possessives, such as its, his, hers, theirs, ours, yours, or whose. In using apostrophe for joint or individual ownership, if joint ownership is meant, the possessive is formed by putting an apostrophe after the name of the last owner. If individual ownership is meant, the apostrophe is used after each owner. Example of joint ownership: John's and Myla's lots. An example of individual ownership: John and Myla's lots. For compound expressions, the possessive is formed by putting the apostrophe after the last word. Example: the bride-to-be's necklace. The apostrophe is after the word be. To pluralize letters, single-digit numbers, uncapitalized abbreviations, and symbols, when letters or words used as they are and not for their meaning are pluralized, the apostrophe is used. Example: cross your T's and dot your I's. Another is, he write his latest uncapitalized. The plural of single-digit numbers written in figures is formed by adding apostrophe s. The multiple-digit numbers in figures, dates, and single-digit numbers which are spelled out are pluralized by simply adding an s. There is no need to put an apostrophe. Example: we must walk in twos, or better, we must walk in twos. And segregate the bills by 50s. And that was done in 1970s. Uncapitalized abbreviations are pluralized without apostrophe s. The plural of a capitalized abbreviation is formed by adding an s without an apostrophe. Example: he has a string of PhDs yet remains humble. Another is, bring your CDs to the picnic.
Good day. We are now about to continue with our discussion on legal writing, Chapter 16 on punctuations. So the purpose of this chapter is for us to be able to use punctuation correctly and sparingly. So punctuations are visual aids to aid the reader better understand a written material. They guide the reader to the writer's intent and meaning. In oral communication, gestures, word stress, and intonation serve as punctuations to help the listener better understand what the speaker is saying. So there are rules on punctuation as discussed by the previous reporter. So I will just continue with the other rules on punctuation. According to Edgar Allan Poe, the writer who neglects punctuation or mispunctuates is liable to be misunderstood. There are rules on punctuations, as mentioned by the previous reporter. It includes period, comma, and others. So the continuation is this. So number one is parentheses. In plural, it is parentheses. It is either or both upright curves used to set off a useful but non-essential word or phrase in a sentence. The parentheses tone down the segregated material. If the writer intends to highlight the phrase, the long dashes are used. For example, the witness, parenthesis, pale and shaking, was grilled during the cross-examination. The other example is, the witness, pale and shaking, was grilled during the cross-examination. So take a look at the parentheses and the long dashes that was used in the second example. They both meant the same. Other use of parentheses. In a parenthetical matters, giving extra information or comments, we use the parentheses. Example, the Philippines, parenthesis 1946, and India, 1947, gained independence a year after the other. Another example, the ADR Act of 2004, parenthesis, Republic Act number 9285, does not repeal but complements and improves on the arbitration law of 1953, parenthesis, Republic Act number 876. Another example, he plans to invite friends, parenthesis, mostly ex-seminarians to the party, emphasizing specifically the friends who are mostly ex-seminarians. Another use of parenthesis is to indicate an abbreviated reference to a long name. Example, the University of the Philippines, parenthesis, UP, gave him a magna cum laude. Another example, Peter Meehan and Nate David, parenthesis, defendants, filed their answer, meaning that Peter Meehan and Nate David are defendants. Marito O. Liosa, represented by his nephew, Ruben Onting, parenthesis, collectively referred to as plaintiff, moved to refer the case to the Philippine Mediation Center. So it is also indicated in here, in a parenthesis, that Marito O. Liosa and represented by his nephew, Ruben Onting, they are referred to as the plaintiff in the case. So note that the use by some writers of hereinafter referred to as defendants is unnecessary and may be shortened to defendants. So another use of parenthesis is to set off numbers or letters enumerating subparts of a statement. For example, his children are, parenthesis 1, Anas James, parenthesis 2, Anthony Lawrence, and parenthesis 3, Ariston David. So, mentioning all the children in numbers accordingly, but the number is stated within a parenthesis. So another punctuation is the quotation marks. Quotation marks may be double or single. Periods and commas are placed inside the quotation marks. Other punctuations like the colon, semicolon, question mark, exclamation point are placed outside unless the question mark and exclamation point are part of the quoted material. So say for example, so the rules in using quotation mark, only short quotations under 50 words are enclosed by quotation marks. Those with 50 words or more do not use quotation marks. Instead, they are written as block quotes, are single space, and given special left and right indentions. So, number one example with quotations under 50 words is here. The Supreme Court in the Borja versus Oncinco 24322-R, October 1, 1962 ruled, insanity as a ground for avoiding an act does not mean a total deprivation of reason, but only an inability from defect of perception, memory, and judgment to do the act in question. So, which is enclosed in a quotation marks. The second example is a quotation with 50 words or more. That's why we do not use quotation marks in here. Instead, it is written in a block quotes, single space, and given special left and right indentions. So People versus Formigones, 87 Philippines 661, held that for insanity to be appreciated as an exempting circumstance, there must be complete deprivation of intelligence in committing the act, that is, that the accused be deprived of reason. Another rule in the use of quotation mark is if a word or phrase is referred to as such without going to its meaning in a sentence, it may be quoted or italicized. Example, Emily Dickinson referred to the grave as her little cottage. The second rule in the use of quotation marks is in nested quotations. When we say nested quotations, it is a quotations within a quotations. Almost all of us have found ourselves confused with double and single quotation marks. When do we use single quotation marks? Where does the punctuation go with a single quotation marks? Quote a quote. So rule number 1, use single quotation marks inside double quotation marks when you have a quotation within a quotation. Example, Bobby told me. Delia said, this will never work. Notice that what Delia said was enclosed in single quotation marks. Notice also that the period was placed inside both the single and the double quotation marks. The American rule is that periods always go inside all quotation marks. As a courtesy, make sure there is a visible space at the start or end of a quotation between adjacent single and double quotation marks. Example, Bobby said, I read an interesting article titled, A Poor Woman's Journey. Another rule is that question marks and exclamation points, unlike periods, follow logic with their placement. If a quote inside a quote is a question or exclamation, place the question mark or exclamation point inside the single quotation marks. Example, Bobby said, Delia asked, will this remote control work on my TV? Bobby said, Delia shouted, get your hands off me. A rule, if the question is inside the double quotation marks, place the question mark between the single and double quotation marks. Example, Bobby asked, did Delia say this will never work? So in the above 3 examples, only one ending punctuation mark was used with the quotation marks. The rule is that the stronger mark wins. Question marks and exclamation points are considered stronger than the period. So another use of the quotation mark is the words used ironically or with a different shade of meaning and are set off by quotations. Example, his wife will soon arrive. Note that the wife has the quotation mark because it connotes a different shade of meaning. Another use of quotation mark is that it set off a nickname if written between the first and the last names. Example, Marianito, Rianing, Ramos. So another punctuation that we use is the bracket. Brackets enclose the writer's own comments into an otherwise verbatim quotation. Indicate his own words, substituting original words in a quotation, or any other insertions, deletions, or changes within quotations. Example of an editorial comment. Brackets are used to indicate one's personal comments in an otherwise word-for-word quotation. Example, Emerson said that love is the adamantine, an extremely hard substance shield which makes blow ridiculous. So in here, the bracketed word is the meaning of the word adamantine. Bracket is also used as a substitution or omission of a letter or word to agree in tense, number, or gender with rest of the sentence. So bracket can suggest that the words are not part of the quotation but rather substitutes to the original. The bracketed matter may also indicate an omission of a letter or word to make the quoted matter conform to the tense, the number, or gender of the rest of the sentence. If a letter is not capitalized in the original but must now be capitalized, that letter must be bracketed. However, do not italicize brackets. Example, she, bracket Martha, is a great friend of us. In this example, Martha was not part of the original sentence and the editor added it for clarifications. So another use of brackets is the addition, translation, or clarification inside a sentence. The bracketed matter may likewise indicate additional information, including the translation or clarification of a quoted data. Example, the review placed Margaret Mitchell's Pulitzer Prize-winning story, Gone with the Wind, at the pinnacle of Hollywood movie making. Another example is It's a Case of Ocasio Facet Furem, or in a bracket, opportunity makes the thief. So another punctuation is the word sic, which is a Latin for thus, is inserted in brackets directly after a quoted word to show that the material is quoted literally, and that in the opinion of the person quoting the word or words immediately preceding the sic is erroneous or doubtful. Example, in her diary, she scribbled in bird-like scratches, "Truth, sic shall set you free." Sic is inside a bracket. Phonetic alphabets and symbols are bracketed when written in a sentence. Example, the Spanish vowel U sounds like the U in rule. So, phonetics. Phonetic alphabets and symbols are bracketed when written in a sentence. Example, the Spanish vowel U sounds like the U in rule. Ellipsis and eclipse have the same Greek root word, lapin, meaning live. Ellipses are marks written as ... or asterisk, 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 3 dots and 3 asterisks, to indicate the omission of a word or words in a sentence. The dots are also used to indicate a protracted pause in a dialogue, although asterisks are still used today to mark deleted parts. The rule in legal writing is to use only ellipsis dots. The rule is rather simple. 3 ellipsis dots indicate the omission of one or more words in a quotation. 4 dots, meaning 3 ellipsis dots and a period, are used if the omission occurs at the end of a sentence. Ellipsis dots are not used at the beginning of a quotation. A bracketed and capitalized first letter in a quotation will indicate that the beginning of the sentence had been omitted. Example, Leo Tolstoy once asked, "Is there any book of the law so clear to each man as that written in his heart?" The bracketed letter suggests that the beginning has been omitted and that ellipsis dots are not needed. The full quotation reads, "Where is there any book of the law so clear to each man as that written in his heart?" Long pause in a dialogue is written with an ellipsis. I feel I am entitled to the property. So you will notice that there is a pause because there are 3 dots that has been included in the sentence. So the next punctuation is the asterisk. Asterisk, also called star. Asterisks are used to indicate footnotes, references, or omissions. The note indicated by an asterisk is usually placed at the bottom margin of a document. The next is virgule. Virgule are also called the solidus or diagonal. The virgule is that diagonal stroke indicating or options. Example, it is all right to wear shoes or slippers in class. Example, it is all right to wear shoes, diagonal slippers in class, meaning there's an option between shoes or slippers inside the class. The next is Vic and or Willie may withdraw from this account. So the virgule is also used in the following, like in fractions, 2/3, in between 2 and 3 is a virgule. Dates, 4/24/07, meaning it's April 24, 2007, but it is written in numbers with a virgule between the month, the date, the month, the day, and the year. Virgule is also used to indicate breaks when poems are written continuously. Like for example, the grave my little cottage is, We're keeping house for thee. I make my parlor orderly and lay the marble tea. So if you can read the example of the poem written, having the virgule, meaning you have to pause in reading the poem. So another use of virgule is when per is used. Example, 90 km per hour. So virgule is read as per. So the virgule here means in relation to. Virgule is used in abbreviations like NA or not applicable, and QA meaning quality assurance. So the next punctuation is the dash. The dash may be long and it's called M dash. It can be short and then it's called N dash. M dash or EM or long dashes indicate a sudden break in a sentence to amplify, define, explain, or summarize the matters before the dash. They often substitute the colon, such as to introduce a list or set off appositives. Dashes are, however, less formal than the colon. Examples: the truth, dash, that's what I wanted to hear from you. So there's a sudden break amplifying matters. Next example, my favorite fruits are tropical. My favorite fruits are tropical. Mangoes, papayas, and pineapples. So this indicates list. Another example, 2 of his 4 sons have doctorates, Mar and James. So indicating in here appositives explaining 2. Appearing in pairs, M dashes substitute for commas and parentheses. Parenthetical matters may be set off by long dashes instead of parentheses. Example, he broke down unexpectedly while testifying. Another example, our country's main geographical divisions, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, are represented as stars in the flag. So in typewritten text, M dashes are written as 2 hyphens. No space must appear before or after the dash. One must not use a comma, semicolon, or colon immediately before or after M dashes. As M dashes are strong and emphatic punctuations, they should be used sparingly. An overuse creates a choppy effect in the sentence. So N dash or EN. The EN or short dash looks like a hyphen and means through or up to. Example, 2003 short dash 2007 meaning 2003 through 2007 or 2003 up to 2007. Example, Monday dash Saturday meaning Monday through Saturday or Monday up to Saturday. So the last is the ampersand. The ampersand symbolizes and shortcuts the word. It is not used in formal writing except as part of corporate naming style. For example, American Telephone and Telegraph Company. When the company wants itself to be known using the punctuation, in case of government agency, the word and is used. Example, Department of Public Works and Highways. So when the ampersand is used instead of the comma in the last 2 items in a series, the comma is not used. The comma is not used. For example, the law firm of Flores, Palmera, and Go. So we're now done with the different punctuations used in legal writing. To repeat the saying from Edgar Allan Poe, the writer who neglects punctuation or mispunctuates is liable to be misunderstood. Punctuation helps the reader to clearly understand the message that is being conveyed, and as a wrongly used punctuation or a missing punctuation can change the entire meaning of a sentence. So there you go, my dear classmates. Thank you so much. This is Hazel Rosal Sumpay saying God bless and take care.